You open the cabinet door, and there it is, sitting on the shelf between the crackers and the soup, a can, simple, affordable, familiar. You've bought it 100 times. Maybe your mother bought it. Maybe you fed it to your own children on a Tuesday night when nothing else made sense. It doesn't ask much of you, just a turn of the lid, a fork, a little mayo, and in return, protein, convenience, a quiet promise that you're doing okay. But what if that promise was never kept? Every year, we're told our food is getting safer, cleaner, more transparent. Labels scream wild caught. Packaging whispers trust. But the truth? It's getting harder to know what's real because the brightest labels often hide the darkest truths. Right now, in pantries across the country, millions of people are storing cans they believe are safe. Cans they open without a second thought. Cans that smell wrong, taste strange, but they eat it anyway. Because the brand name looked friendly, because it was on sale, because questioning your tuna feels ridiculous. Until it's not, until the recall notice comes, until the sodium spikes your blood pressure, until the metal shard ends up in your sandwich. And then you realize, you were never the customer. You were the test subject. This isn't a story about tuna. It's a story about trust, about the invisible betrayals we swallow because we assume someone, somewhere, is protecting us, but they're not. And today, we're pulling back the lid, not with outrage, not with finger pointing, but with something quieter, truth. Because you deserve to know what you're really putting in your body and what's been sitting in your pantry, waiting. Let's start where most stories about food do. With a childhood memory, you're 7 years old. It's Saturday. Your mom makes tuna sandwiches. The kitchen smells like mayonnaise and bread. The can sits open on the counter. You don't question it. You just eat. And it tastes like home. Fast forward 30 years, you're standing in the same aisle your mother stood in, staring at the same labels. But the tuna inside? It's not the same. The companies aren't the same. The oceans aren't the same. And your body definitely isn't the same. But the label still says trusted. So you buy it. You bring it home, you crack it open, and the smell hits you like a wave of doubt. Sour, metallic, off. You tell yourself it's fine. Maybe this batch was just old. You rinse it, you drain it, you cover it with enough mayo to mask the taste, and you eat it. Because wasting food feels wrong. Because your budget is tight. Because you don't want to admit that the brand you've trusted your whole life might have stopped caring about you. But here's the thing. That smell, it wasn't random. That texture, not an accident. That metallic aftertaste, a warning. One you ignored. Because in the grocery store, confusion is profit. They don't sell you the best tuna. They sell you the best illusion. And every year, the illusion gets shinier. Brighter labels, bolder claims, bigger promises. But the fish inside? It's shrinking, literally. What used to be solid chunks now collapses into wet tissue. What used to smell like the ocean now smells like a chemistry experiment. What used to be protein is now a blend of fillers, brine, and broken promises. And the worst part? You're paying more for less. Not just in money, in health, in trust, in the quiet, creeping anxiety that comes from realizing you don't actually know what you're eating anymore. Let's talk about what that does to you. Not in some distant, clinical way, but in the real, everyday moments. You're 72. You've been told to watch your sodium. Your doctor was clear. Your daughter printed out the list and taped it to the fridge. You're doing your best, but lunch is hard. Fresh fish? Too expensive. Cooking from scratch? Your hands hurt. So you reach for the can because it says heart healthy, because the label has a picture of the ocean, because it's what you've always done. You don't read the back. Why would you? It's tuna. But that single serving, it just gave you 360 milligrams of sodium, 1/5 of your daily limit, before the bread, before the crackers, before the soup you'll have for dinner. And tomorrow, your ankles swell, your pressure spikes, your daughter worries, and you wonder, what did I do wrong? But you didn't do anything wrong. You trusted. And that trust was used against you. This is the part they don't show in commercials. The part where the friendly mascot disappears, where the family recipe becomes a corporate formula, where your health becomes negotiable. Because here's what most people don't know. Some of the biggest tuna brands in America have been caught, not in scandal, in crime, price fixing, fraud, contamination, recalls, not rumors, convictions, millions in fines, thousands of cans pulled from shelves, and yet they're still there, same aisle, same shelf, same smile, because the penalty for betrayal is just a cost of doing business. So the question isn't whether you've been lied to, it's how many times, and whether you'll keep opening that can or start asking what's really inside. Because there are cans that smell like trust, and cans that smell like rot, and sometimes they come from the same brand, the one with the cartoon fish, the one with the mermaid, the one with the bee. They all look so friendly, but peel back the lid and the story changes. So let's do that. Let's open them, one by one, not with rage, but with clarity, because you deserve to see what you've been swallowing and what it's been doing to you. This is where it starts, with 5 cans, 5 names, 5 betrayals, and the quiet realization that the danger was never in the ocean. It was on the shelf, waiting for you to trust it. The first can looks like America, red, white, and blue. A cartoon fish with a smile that hasn't changed since 1952, star-kissed. The name alone feels like childhood. Lunchboxes, camping trips, your grandmother's kitchen counter on a Sunday. But somewhere between then and now, the star faded, not all at once. Slowly, the way trust erodes when no one's paying attention. You open the can, and the smell isn't right. It's not the clean ocean salt scent you remember. It's sour, sharp, almost metallic, like fish left too long in a warm car. You stir it with a fork, and instead of firm chunks, it collapses, wet, mushy, like tissue paper soaked in salt water. You tell yourself it's fine. Maybe you got a bad batch. But then you check the forums, the reviews, the quiet complaints people leave when they think no one's listening. And you realize you weren't alone. Hundreds of people, same story, same smell, same mush. But here's the part that stings. StarKist didn't stumble into this. They chose it. In 2017, the US Department of Justice convicted them. Not for quality issues, for price fixing, a deliberate scheme to inflate costs across the country. The fine? $100 million. That's not a slap on the wrist, that's an admission. And while they paid the government, they never paid you back. Not in quality, not in transparency, not in the trust they built their brand on. Instead, the sodium content climbed, 360 milligrams per serving, nearly 1/5 of your daily limit. For someone on blood pressure medication, that's not lunch, that's a risk. And the texture? It kept getting worse. Some customers reported biting down on grit, like sand. Like the tuna had been dragged across a factory floor and no one bothered to rinse it off. Others found their cans arriving with bulging lids, cloudy liquid inside, a slimy film on top that clung to the edges like dirty dishwater. These aren't viral horror stories. They're everyday realities, filed, documented, ignored, because when you're big enough, the complaints don't matter. Only the shelf space does. So the question becomes, how many cans did you buy before you noticed? And how many did you eat, even after you did? The second can wears a smile too, but this one's underwater. A mermaid, long hair, gentle eyes, the words, seafood with integrity, chicken of the sea. It sounds wholesome. It looks trustworthy. And for decades, it was. But then the recipe changed. Not the label, the recipe. What used to be tuna became tuna plus scraps of white fish, plus fillers, plus just enough real tuna to pass the legal minimum. You wouldn't know by looking. The can still says chunk light, but open it, and what you find isn't light. It's wrong. The texture is soft, too soft. It doesn't flake, it dissolves. Like cat food that's been left out too long. And the smell? Some describe it as watered down, bland, chemical. One review said it best. I had to check the label twice to make sure I didn't grab the pet aisle by mistake. But it's not just taste, it's safety. In recent years, Chicken of the Sea issued recalls, not for expired product, for metal fragments. Small steel shards from defective lids slipping into the tuna. Imagine that. You're making a sandwich for your grandchild. You spread it on bread, and somewhere inside, a piece of steel. Waiting. One customer wrote, "The only thing chunkier than the tuna was the metal." That's not a joke. That's a warning that came too late. And even without the metal, the sodium levels are dangerous. 360 milligrams again. The same trap, the same spike, the same risk to your heart, your kidneys, your trust. And Mercury? Independent labs flagged Chicken of the Sea products for levels close to the FDA's threshold. Not over, just close enough. Close enough that if you eat it twice a week, you're playing a game you didn't sign up for. Because mercury doesn't leave your body, it builds. Tremors, fatigue, neurological damage. For seniors, for pregnant women, that's not a side effect. That's a betrayal. So here's the truth. The mermaid on the label? She's not protecting you. She's distracting you. While the company swaps out real tuna for cheaper blends. While they cut corners on lids and quality control. While they count on your nostalgia to cover their negligence. The third can buzzes. A bee, bright yellow and black. Bumblebee, another childhood name. Another pantry staple. Another slow collapse. You remember when it was good, firm, clean, reliable, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being food and started being filler. Open a can today, and you'll find a soupy mess, watery liquid floating on top, tuna that falls apart the moment you touch it, a smell that's more metallic than ocean, more cardboard than fish. Customers noticed. They started asking questions. And the answers? They didn't come from the company, they came from the FDA. In 2016, Bumblebee recalled over 31,000 cases, contamination risk, processing errors, cans that were unsafe to eat, 31,000. That's not a bad batch. That's a system failure. And the company's response? Silence. Because by the time the recall hit the news, most of those cans were already eaten. But the betrayal didn't stop there. In 2019, Bumblebee filed for bankruptcy. They sold to a foreign conglomerate, a massive holding group that controls dozens of cheap processed food brands worldwide. And when ownership changes hands like that, quality doesn't improve, it disappears. Because now it's not about feeding families, it's about feeding profit margins. So, what's inside a Bumblebee can today? Whistleblowers suggest only about 70% is actual fish. The rest? Binding agents, additives, fillers, stretching the product to stretch the profit. You're paying for protein, but a third of it isn't? And for seniors counting on that protein? For families on a budget trying to eat healthy? That's not just disappointing, that's theft. Dressed up in a bright yellow label with a bee that stopped buzzing years ago. 3 cans, 3 names, 3 betrayals. And we're only halfway through. Because the ones that look fancy, the ones that whisper gourmet and Mediterranean, those might be the most dangerous of all. Not because of what they contain, but because of what they convince you to ignore. The slick of oil that smells like chemicals, the sodium levels that rival fast food, the premium price for basement-grade fish, and the recall notices that never mention the word deadly until it was too late. So take a breath, check your pantry, and ask yourself, how many of these names are sitting on your shelf right now? Because the next two, they don't just disappoint, they paralyze, literally. Now we arrive at the ones that dress up, the cans that don't shout, they whisper. Gourmet, Mediterranean style, packed in olive oil. The label looks expensive, old world design, golden accents, the kind of can you pick up and think. This one's different. Genova, it sits on the shelf like it's doing you a favor. Premium tuna, premium price, and when you open it, the oil floats to the top. Thick, greasy, not golden, more like motor oil on a garage floor. You stir it. The fish doesn't flake, it shreds into soggy ribbons. And the taste? Chemical? Cling? Bitter aftertaste that won't leave your tongue. This is what you paid extra for. Not Italian delicacy, not extra virgin olive oil, but trimmings. The leftover cuts from mass processing, cheap fish dressed in cheaper oil. And the sodium? Still over 350 milligrams per serving. Same trap, fancier label, because if the branding looks premium, you won't question what's inside. You'll assume someone checked, someone cared, but they didn't. Consumer reports revealed that many gourmet tunas use refined oils mixed with vegetable blends, not the pure cold-pressed olive oil the label implies, just bulk filler, swimming in grease. And for seniors who buy these thinking they're investing in health, it's not an upgrade, it's a betrayal in a prettier package. Europe wouldn't allow half of this. Stricter sodium limits, clearer sourcing, honest oil labeling. But here, the illusion is enough, and you're left with a mouthful of regret and a can that costs twice as much. But here's where the story turns dark. Darker than mush, darker than metal shards, darker than broken promises. Because some cans don't just disappoint, they kill, slowly, silently, without warning. The FDA confirmed it. Genova, Van Camp's, even Trader Joe's. All recalled, not for taste, for botulism. A bacteria that doesn't smell, doesn't change the color, doesn't give you a heads up. You open the can, it looks fine, smells fine, you make a sandwich, you eat, and hours later, the paralysis begins. First your muscles, then your lungs, then your ability to breathe. This isn't food poisoning, this is a shutdown. And for seniors, for anyone with a compromised system, it can be fatal. What caused it? Defective lids, easy open designs with tiny flaws. Flaws that let in air, creating the perfect environment for Clostridium botulinum to grow. And the companies? They knew. Reports suggest they were aware of packaging errors, but recalls cost money. Redesigns cost time. So they waited, and people bought those cans, opened them, ate them, never knowing the danger was sealed inside. One customer said, "I thought it tasted flat. Now I know why." Thousands of cans were pulled. But how many were eaten before the recall went public? How many are still sitting in pantries right now? Waiting? That's the part that breaks you. Not the scandal, the silence. The fact that a can of tuna could look completely normal and still stop your heart. But let's come back up, because this isn't just a story of betrayal, it's also a story of choice. And there are still cans that keep their promises. Not many, but they exist. Safe catch. The name says it all. They don't test batches. They test every single fish. For mercury, for contaminants, for safety. If it doesn't pass, It doesn't go in the can. Open one, and you'll see the difference immediately. Firm chunks, clean aroma, no grease, no mush, just tuna, the way it was always supposed to be, and the numbers back it up. Mercury levels average below 0.1 parts per million, a fraction of what the big brands allow. For pregnant women, for seniors, for anyone who's been told to watch their intake. This is the difference between risk and relief. They don't hide behind vague labels. They publish batch codes, fishing regions, test results. You can trace your can back to the ocean. That's not marketing. That's accountability. And it matters, because food should never feel like a gamble. Then there's Crown Prince, solid white albacore, no salt added, certified sustainable, clearly labeled. It doesn't shout, it just delivers. Thick, firm chunks, pale, clean flesh, the smell of the ocean, not the lab, and for anyone managing blood pressure or kidney health, zero added sodium changes everything. No spike, no risk, no hidden trap, just protein, the way your body needs it. One review said, "Finally, tuna. I can feed my parents without worrying." That's trust. Real trust. Not the kind printed on a label. The kind you feel when nothing goes wrong. So here we are. 5 cans that betrayed you, 2 that didn't, and a pantry full of decisions you'll never look at the same way again. Because this was never about tuna. It was about the space between what we're told and what's true. The space where corporations grow and trust dies. But you're not powerless. You never were. Every time you choose a different can, you're choosing a different future. One where your health isn't negotiable, where your trust isn't a product, where the label actually matches what's inside. It starts small. 1 can, 1 choice, 1 question. What's really in here? And am I okay with the answer? Because the ocean is still out there. The fish are still real. And somewhere, someone is still doing it right. You just have to know where to look. And now, you do. So before you go, hit that subscribe button. Because we don't just review, we expose. From the hype, to the hidden failures, to the tricks, brands hope you'll never question. We're here for the truth. The kind that doesn't fit on a label. The kind that protects your family, your health, your right to know what you're really buying. So tap subscribe, join thousands of smart shoppers who already know that smart spending starts with asking smarter questions. And we're just getting started. Next up, the frozen meals that look healthy, but read like a chemistry experiment. You won't believe what's hiding in your freezer. See you there.